All right, so excited to have you both here. So feel free to unmute. You don't have to be on mute. There's only three of us here. um, so being that we have this small group, the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to set up the field and channel what's coming through. And then if you both want kind of like a mini constellation in relationship to the energies of spring, we can do that as well. So how does that sound? Sound good? Okay. Yeah, so let's just take a moment to center ourselves and connect in, bringing our intentions, taking 3 full deep breaths. Connecting to our heart, our core column of light, to the crystalline grids of the planet, and to source. And I'd just like to call in, we'll each take a turn to call in whatever beings, spiritual beings, ancestors that you want to call in to support us in this constellation. So I'd like to call in Gaia herself, elements of nature, the devas, the energy of the sun, the ascended masters, and any supportive ancestors that would like to be with us here today. And I'll pass it to Trudy.
And as well as those that you called in, I would ask for Grandmother Moon to come in today or to be with us today. And Grandfather Stones. Also Raven Spirit and Bear Spirit, please. And that's good for me.
Okay.
Good with me.
Lindsay. Thank you, Trudy.
You called in the Devas of Nature. I just want to name Pan and Ani, who I know is the overriding Devas of Nature. And I'd like to call in the Devas of my neighborhood, this land that I live on, and there's also some land up the road that's currently unoccupied that I feel drawn to connect to. I'll just bring in my divine team, spirit guides, angels, archangels, higher self. And I think that includes lots of individuals that need to be named.
Great. Okay. And that feels good. Beautiful. Okay, so I have a field set up for Earth herself, a field for spring, and a field for humanity. And we'll see what else wants to come in as it unfolds. All right, so I'm feeling drawn to stepping into humanity first. was feeling a little bit of grief, like that's just under the surface. And I'm seeing this gesture of like, kind of like empty hands, of feeling sort of emptied out in a way. Just feels like there's this just a lot of noise, and I feel like in the collective, like we're done with that. They don't, it's this feeling of like shutting, like tuning that out, wanting to go within, but almost kind of like turning away from that noise. But it's this feeling of kind of having to acknowledge this, maybe this emptiness or this, like as we detach from all of that noise, there's this like feeling of emptiness. And I see this sort of like kind of slowly turning to each other, kind of empty handed in a way. Kind of this feeling of like it's just us now. So I'm not sure, what that means exactly, but here we are. And there's this grief or this acknowledgement of, wow, like this has been a difficult and painful road that we've been on. But there's also this feeling of, I feel like through the voice, through connecting, through speaking specifically, and I'm hearing like soft speaking, like, intimacy of sharing what's really on our heart. That then there's a hope then, but it's just feels like it's just the beginning. Um, yeah, and I'm not really feeling like that they're that humanity in general is like really turning towards earth, like um, it's like, yes, turning towards each other is important. We have to start creating authentic relationships, but it's almost like we're missing, like there's earth herself, like there's so much potential there. So there's something, I don't know, we'll see if there's something in the way there. I'm going to come over to earth. I just see this bright light at the center of earth's core. I'm seeing she's like, she's supercharged. She's very bright, like exponential. Like this light is so bright. It's almost like, you know how there's like sounds that we can't hear because we can only hear a certain range. Like this light is like beyond the brightness of what we could perceive, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I'm picking up on. Um, yeah, there's a lot of joy with earth. Um, she knows where she's headed. So this idea of new earth, the next, evolution, she's well on her way. And she is saying like, humanity will continue. It'll be different, so she's not concerned. Like there's no, she's just doing her thing. Yeah, there's a lot of co-creative energy happening between her and other planets and star systems, and there's a lot going on. It's almost like there's just all these dimensions that are happening all at once. Come over to spring. So we enter spring now, which, by the way, it just started downpouring rain last night, all night long. You had it there too, Lindsay? Yeah.
Right now it's downpouring, yeah.
Yeah, it's been downpouring nonstop all night, which is
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
um,
Right.
Spring. Spring feels quiet to me. There's this, it's very subtle. It's interesting because I thought I'd step into the field and there'd be all this big energy, but it feels more like just very soft and subdued, like slow. It's kind of feeling being low to the ground. And just this slow opening up. It's like when everything starts to communicate again. So it's interesting that there's a little bit of that parallel between what the humans want to be doing, connecting, communicating. Now I'm seeing that with spring. It's like communications begins, the birds, the trees, like everything starts to communicate. So winter is really this time of silence, Um, all right, so I'm going to come back to humanity. Yeah, spring feels very soft. So stepping to the field of humans. And I'll start the conversation between humans and I feel drawn to spring. So we are humans of the earth, and you are energy of spring. You are spring in this is the northern hemisphere specifically. So we are the humans in the northern hemisphere specifically. So I have to define that. And you are spring. We are connected to you. I feel this longing. It's like, oh, to be soft, to I feel like we know that someplace deep within our being. But again, that noise and the pressure, like of the old paradigm, whatever you want to call it, the way things have been, there's this longing for that softness of like how can we rest in that, um, mm. Almost feel like I need to bring in a field for um, I mean, there's definitely like dark forces, I would call it, harmonic forces that keep us from that softness, that more connected to spirit. So that kind of came in. So I'll bring in a field for that. I don't know if it's Armand specifically, but maybe we'll just call it the old paradigm. No, maybe it is. It is. Yeah. No, it's definitely a being, the harmonic being. So bring that in. So yeah, so of course the influence of Ahriman is to have humanity turn away from, our true spiritual nature, to turn away from nature, to sever us from being in co-creation with it, with nature. So it's interesting how I don't feel like Earth. It's like in the end, love wins. Like Earth knows that already. Spring is just doing her thing. But yeah, so the harmonic forces are definitely like wanting um, to clamp down and sort of take over the human being. But we are, our hearts are still connected to a greater longing, which to me translates as like that's the hope, you know. So as long as you are connected to that longing that, you know, is inborn, it's part of us, right? When we come here, it's part of who we are. As long as we're still connected to the longing, there's hope. It's when the longing disappears, that's when it's kind of like, oh, okay, we've sort of given up or given in, or, you know. So I feel this when I connect, when the humans look towards spring, there is this sort of this joy that starts to seep in, um, and so really there's there's, you know, we have this perception that, you know, all of these, you know, negative forces, that they're so powerful, you know, like, what can we do? Like, you know, I have to do this and I have to do that to survive and pay the bills and all of that kind of stuff. But in reality, there is a light that wants to enter. How's this resonating so far? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Come over to spring now. So I am spring, you are humanity. I am connected to you. And I love you. I'm hearing the word songs, like singing. That's one way that we co-create with nature, is actually through song and singing, using our voices in that way. Which is really quite beautiful. Definitely feels to me that in times past, that was just kind of what everybody did. Everybody sang all the time. And we've moved away from that, right? Again, our harmonic influence, like buy the CDs, just listen to the radio, just consume it, you know, like, and yeah, so many people are just so disconnected from their singing. So I'm hearing that is very healing and connects us to the energies of spring. Yeah, and tuning into the newness of life, innocence. So innocence, to really perceive, allowing your eyes to take in what you see, in the moment, if you can let go of everything else that's going on in your life, to allow yourself to be amazed, allow yourself to be delighted as a child would be delighted. Like that's the gift. Like that's the renewal. It's like seeing, we have to make a choice to see everything anew, as if we're seeing it for the first time, even though we're seeing, we've seen it a million times before. So, and it can be as simple as, looking into the eyes of a small child, like really like looking at them, seeing them, the people that you interact with, the animals, everything, the trees. Let's come to address Earth. So we are human beings, and you are Earth. We are connected to you. I feel like I hear this like crying out for mother. Like I feel like there is I think we can't help it. There's a part of us that wants to be saved, We wish someone would, mother save us, just somebody, like please. So I'm feeling that. Yeah, it's almost like, when a child finds himself in a pickle and he's like, I don't know how to get out of this one, mommy, can you please just come and help me out, or, get me out of this situation? Because I can see that those harmonic forces, it's like, oh, here's what we're entangled with, that we have to grapple with. And it's feeling like it's too much. So there's fear. We'll come back to Mother Earth. So I am Mother Earth, you are humanity, I'm connected to you. And like a good mother, I feel like she's saying, this is part of your growth. Like you need to deal with this. Like this entanglement is actually part of your growth and your evolution. If I were just to come and rescue you, you wouldn't evolve. I would just be, enabling, or you know what I mean? So she's very like, just sort of holding space in a way. And she knows it's hard, but she believes in us. And she has so much love for us. Come back to the humans. So I'm going to address harmonic forces. Say, we are human beings. You are harmonic forces. We are connected to you. And what I'm seeing is I see it as, something that's inside of us or part of us. Um, yeah, it's all what I see. It's like, it's not all of us, but it's definitely, you know, hooked into us. Is it part of us? I feel like at this point in time, it definitely is. It's how it's evolved. Um, and I'll come over to harmonic forces. So I am the harmonic forces. You are human beings. It definitely, it definitely has a goal and an intention, which is to um, thwart the evolution of the human being, to keep the human um, off of its timeline. Uh, and to use the human as part of its own evolution. It can't evolve. The harmonic forces can't evolve without the human being. Like on its own, it doesn't have anything. So so in that way, it's like, yeah, it comes off as like seemingly very, very powerful, but the reality is that it needs us in order to accomplish its goal, and without us, it it is destroyed, or it can't continue. So um, so it's obviously definitely very invested in um, us not like what's the word, um, doesn't want us to be aware of that truth. Um, right. So we stand in the field of the humans and just say to Armon, we are the human beings. You are harmonic forces, and we were born with free will and choice. And so we're at that point of choice. Mm. I get this sense of, it appears like that everything, it almost feels insurmountable to us, right? Of everything that we're facing. And it just seems like, oh my God, like I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Like there's all the reasons that it feels insurmountable and out of beyond our control. But what I'm perceiving, at least here, what's coming through is um, what I was communicating before is, even just the simple act of turning towards each other and having conversations, or even the simple act of singing, it's like a homeopathic remedy, right? Like a homeopathic remedy, it's this tiny little sugar pill, right? And it's just so subtle, but you take it and boom, you can have like a huge response, right? So what it feels like to me here, and it feels uh, like I'm just feeling it emotionally in a very deep way, of this not to forget that in the in the smallest acts. Again, I think of, like, was it Teresa Avila or whatever? Anyway, one of those saints, Saint Teresa. She was the one that said, like, to kind of do everything with love, no matter how small they act. It's like this feeling of really choosing to not give all that other stuff so much power and attention and so much um, worry and concern. It's like, if just, and again, I just feel like in our words and how we speak to one another, um, how we are choose to perceive through our senses, when connecting with spring, um, that profound level of healing can happen. And it feels to me like it starts there. Um, come over to spring. So there's this, yeah, it just feels like if we can allow, like we have to allow ourselves that. We have to choose to allow that. It's not just going to happen automatically, right? Like we're in a place where, societally speaking, culturally speaking, we've been devoid of all that. We're kind of like spiritually maybe bankrupt, if I can't think of a better word, but like just emptied. So and because it's, we're not there yet, we're not completely in the new earth yet, it's these small acts that build the new earth. So, which is interesting, because I was just reading this book about Steiner, and basically what Steiner said was that in our everyday thoughts and actions, that's how the new earth is being built at another level. The new earth, it's like we are, even if we can't see it right now, all of those, just those little small acts and the thoughts that we think are actually building that structure so it can come forth. But if we don't do that, then it doesn't, it's not going to happen. So so it's not that we have to be like, you know yeah, I'm repeating myself. It's the small acts that are actually the most powerful. It's not about having to be like, oh, I'm going to create a huge movement and I'm going to create millions of people following me. And, I'm going to come up with whatever, a modality that's going to save everyone or, whatever. It's like, yeah, super simple. Homeopathy. Yeah. Lindsay, you're muted.
What you were saying before about how we tend to feel overwhelmed, like, what can I do? That's what I keep coming back to, is if I can just hold this energy and radiate this energy of peace and love and just have that in my being, that's all I need. I don't need to do anything else. Yeah. And yeah, just hold that energy and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard because there's such loudness around, like, the economy is going to collapse and da, 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 and all the things, it's like, everybody's like prep mode or whatever. It's just, it's intense. It's a real thing. But if we can, yeah, lean into that trust of, okay, like it's the train's already left the station, right? Pretty much. So, um, our role now is like, okay, well then how am I going to choose to respond to whatever comes? um yeah, I can choose overwhelm, or I can just embrace it and be really present, and know that in just like what I'm sharing with people, how I'm speaking, how I'm taking things in, um knowing that it's all already here. We have this loving, amazing earth. I mean, she's full of light. So we have to, I think, lean into some trust. But yeah, and so it's interesting how this feeling of like, okay, we're arriving empty-handed. Okay, well, then there's no, then there's nowhere else to go but up if once you're at the bottom, right? So it's kind of what it feels like. Um, Trudy, did you want to comment on anything or?
Well, apparently the grief isn't just under the surface. It's bubbling out. Pouring out. Like your downpour. And I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, grief is one of those things that we always like when we start to feel it creep in, we're like, okay, sweep it. Nope, I gotta be productive. Like I just have to stay focused. And it's really when we allow it to come through, then it has medicine for us to change us and to be with it, like just to be with it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, I also did not really expect the hopeful voices to come through as well. I mean, there is hope there in a way that I didn't expect to hear. And so yeah, the grief does need to go out, but it's really critically important to hear what else came through. Yeah. And also including that the harmonic forces are not in control of everything, right? Yeah. Yeah, because they do seem too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really important message, is that there are simple ways of simple loving ways that that make a difference.
Right.
And I guess one little thing that it reminds me of is like in indigenous ceremonies, the ancestors, when they come through and speak, it's kind of like sing louder. Doesn't matter if you don't know the words necessarily, like hum along if it's not your first language, like it's sing.
Oh, wow. I love that. Oh my gosh, I just got like tingles all over. I love that so much. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's really like um embracing our humanity, like just staying connected to our humanity. That's the key. It's like, no, we are human, you know, we feel, uh, yeah. Because yeah, the harmonic forces is all about not feeling, you know, not having feelings, of being very machine-like and, you know, powerful and all of that hardening of the human. So this softness is what's coming through spring. Yeah, which was interesting because here, you know, it's been a long gray winter and we finally had some warmth and some sun, and I felt like, like I had all this energy all of a sudden. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like I just felt so jazzed. And then, so I had that big surge of energy, and then I kind of went, poof, and then I kind of crashed back down again. I'm like, oh, okay, wait, I gotta like pace myself. So I feel like it's interesting how spring is what's saying. It's like it's this slow creep, like kind of like pace yourself. Like, yeah, spring is here, yay, and like go gentle into it. Like let it slowly blossom and open, and you know, feel your way through it.